Speaking of awesome shows, we've got one today, if I do say so myself. Julianna Skluzacek's here. Whenever she's here, we always have awesome shows.
But I'm not the main topic today.
No, I know that, but you're still here.
Okay. Yes,
and
I am.
You're going to introduce our guest, I think.
I am? Okay.
I believe so. That's why you're here, right?
Yes. I'm part of the Paradise Music Committee, and that's why I'm here today. That's the hat I'm wearing. And to my right is Gary Rue, who's here to talk about the show he's going to be doing at the Paradise next Friday night, the Fab Six.
How do you spell Rue?
R-U-E, like the regret. Like the herb, like the street.
Yeah, R-U-E. That's your real name.
That's my real name.
He's thinking, why would I use that for a stage name? I mean, really.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited about this show.
I'm very excited about this show.
So who are you bringing with you?
It is not the Fab Six interpreting the Beatles music, it is the Fab 16. We have 16 people on stage.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
We have Gordon Oswald. Do you know Gordon?
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to take the place of one of our other guitar players who was otherwise committed and had been for some time.
What a great name.
But yeah, and we have a string quartet and a vocal trio and a brass section.
Oh, you have a string quartet.
We do.
That means you're doing stuff from the White Album?
No, White Album. We're doing
Magical
Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper, Abbey Road, and a few of the party songs from the early days.
Okay.
Yeah, and Yesterday is really quite beautiful with the string quartet.
Love that song.
Yeah, and Eleanor Rigby as well.
Yes, strings.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely for strings for that.
Yeah.
How about the party song Oobla Dee Oobla Da?
We're not doing that. No, we might pull out Birthday from that album, which is fun, but that's a party dance song. We're going to save that to the end.
Okay.
And we'll open up the dance floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we got a little bit of the cat out of the bag there, didn't we?
Yes, I just
good half the cat.
I'm so excited about hearing all that music I love so much.
This is the Beatles music. Now, Gary was very, very clear in telling me, because I met him out in the hallway, that they are not trying to be the Beatles.
Good God, no. Why would we want to do that? The issue always comes up whether or not, what kind of show is this? And Kristen had said, well, it's a tribute show. And I said, no, it's not. But she said, well, for marketing purposes, that would probably be best. And I said, okay, but it's not a tribute show, because we don't wear costumes and we don't speak in fake Liverpudlian accents, and we don't try to be any of those four people.
Mm-hmm.
We just play the music. And let me tell you, it was difficult pulling that music together. The charts, there are no archive charts. It was all by ear.
Oh,
I had to go into everything and do it by ear. And
is that because Michael Jackson owned all the music, or what?
No, because the story is George Martin was the Beatles producer, and that's what this show is mostly about to me, not to everybody else perhaps, but to me and his contribution to that sound. And George Martin was a salaried EMI producer. He never got an extra penny for doing anything that he did with the Beatles. He just had an hourly. That was it. And so whenever they'd chart something out, they'd just throw it away.
Oh my.
Because it's not going, I keep it. And it's not around. Wow. And so someone had tried in the 90s to archive all this stuff by ear, and before digital technology, they got as close as they could. So they gave me a place to start from. Mm-hmm. But I would go in and I'd look at it, and then I'd listen to the recording, the digital stereo mixes, and all the mixes you can get out there now. And I said, the viola part isn't right here, or the cello is not playing that line that way, or this is a different chord than they're really letting you know. That vocal mix is different. It's deep.
Yeah.
Rabbit holes, we've been down every one of them.
I'll be darned.
Yep.
So, talk about a labor of love.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this more when AM Minnesota continues, and maybe I can pull out of Julianna the Cabaret coming up here too, I think, toward the end of the month, beginning of next month. We'll get the details about that and the calendar for the Paradise Center for the Arts. I've printed off, and you can do so too at home. This show, by the way, is this Friday night at 7:30.
That sort of thing, but
July, Minneapolis
the
is up 33
stress of
3/4
trying
to 1.5. Live
raise
and feeder
money to
cattle
pay
of
his
lower
own
pressure
salary
by the
every
recent
month
lower
was-
box beef trend and moderate to
was
heavy
not
offerings
I saw
noted by
that
the
in
USDA.
Yeah.
August lives down
That
40 at
was not
115.90.
good.
October's
Not to mention
57
raising
lower at
money to keep the
114.62.
theater afloat.
August feeders are down
That's all.
212 at
That's the hardest part
145.80.
about it.
it is.
And
It
hogs
really is.
today,
And we're
let's,
crippled
I
by
think we
debt
can
right
just
now,
say they
so
pretty
still.
safely say at this point that they're about to turn next Now,
It's
demand
better
is
than it
there,
was.
but cash
But,
business today so far steadied lower at a pretty thin test. John
we would be,
Perkins,
if we
Ground
could pay
Field
off
Market
that
Update.
loan.
That opening market report is service of your KDHL Agri-Boosters, including Northland Buildings for quality post-frame construction. Head to the website northlandbuildings.com. That's northlandbuildings.com. As I mentioned before the update, the show, and I forgot to tell you when the show is this, the Beatles show, the Fab 6 show, I should say, is this Friday night at 7:30. 7:30 Friday night.
And tickets are selling well. The box office will be opened again after the holiday on Wednesday at noon, but you can go online today and buy a ticket.
In your pajamas.
Yeah. If you so wish, yes you can. ParadiseCenterForTheArts.org.
That's the cool thing about going online. You can do, you don't have to drive anywhere.
And you can choose your seats. So, yeah, I would recommend people do that.
There's not a bad seat in that house, Julianna.
No, there isn't. I prefer the left side myself.
Oh, you do?
Yes. I think the sun's a little clearer over
I
there.
usually sit in the middle.
Do you? Okay.
You know why? The sound is clearer over there because that's directly on axis where the mixing console is, and that's where you're hearing what they hear. Yeah.
Oh.
So
I should be sitting on the left.
that's just where I prefer to sit.
Love everybody on the left.
No, we wouldn't have any room
Don't
for the
sit on my lap, please. Come on.
How many is that hold, by the way?
278.
That includes balcony?
That does not include the 12 seats in the balcony. No.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And the balcony available for this or not?
I don't know if we've got a party up there or not. So I really don't know that.
So people usually can.
Yes, it's a little warm up there because, warm air rises. So I'm not sure that I would sit up there, but it's a great view, that's for sure. You should talk to Gary about his relationship with Gene Pitney, one of my heartthrobs when I was a girl.
Wow, obviously you know Gene.
Yeah, I was a music director for 20 years until he died. Yeah. From 1986 to 2006.
Wow.
I know. What did he die from, Gary? I was really sad when
He
that
had a heart
happened. Did he?
He had chest pains earlier in the afternoon. He said, I'll go to a doctor when I get home. He didn't want to miss the show, and he finished the show, got a standing ovation, went upstairs, laid down on his bed, and died.
Oh my goodness.
That's the way to go, though, isn't
In
it?
Cardiff, Wales.
Oh, much too young, though. All that beautiful music.
Yeah, 67. He was a great guy. Loved working for him. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear he was a nice guy because, I liked him so much, and as a young girl, that makes me feel good that he was a nice guy.
He was intensely private. He didn't like to be called Gene with a capital G. He wanted to be called just Gene. And he was one of the great things about him is he would come out on stage during rehearsal in his little jogging outfit, and he would introduce himself to everyone like they didn't know who he was, and, and then he remembered their names when he introduced on stage toward the end of the performance. He remembered everybody's name, except mine a couple of times.
Only the guy you'd been hanging out with for 15 years.
Right.
He didn't have to pull your leg, did he?
He what?
He was just pulling your leg.
I don't think so. I don't think Gene exhibited a very off-the-cuff sense of humor. His shows were very scripted. They were the same thing every night. If he told a joke at Carnegie Hall and then he told it again at Miles City, Montana, we had to act like it was the first time that we'd heard it. It's like being on TV. So
sure.
Yeah.
And you also have worked with Bobby V.
Worked with Bobby V. Yeah. And then that led to Julianna had mentioned something about the Buddy Holly story in the city at History Theater. The reason that we got to go to get the reason we got the Ivy came from 2 points. Number one was where I learned how to interpret the music the correct way from a friend of mine who was drummer for Manhattan Transfer. There's this thing, if you'll just bear with me for a second, there's a thing called a rub in music, and nobody does that because they don't know what it is. But what happens is the bebop drummers coming out of the 50s are swinging. Buddy Holly came along and he wanted it square. Da, 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 da. And the bass player is in the middle playing boom, 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 quarter notes, and he doesn't care. So what happens is you got the drummer swinging, the guitar player's playing square, and it creates this incredible tension. And that was the thing that broke it for us. And so I had called my manager, Gene Pitney's manager, and I are good friends, and we said, let's get the Crickets here for the opening show, because we'd run into them on the East Coast playing with Gene. And we talked, and they said no, and we talked, and they said no, and we talked, and they said yes, because they knew us. So they finally came.
Persistence.
They finally came, and they told us, they said they'd been all over the world seeing the Buddy Holly story, and they said this musical interpretation was the best they'd ever heard, which was incredible. And they gave all their money back we gave them to come. We paid them to come, and they gave it back, and they did a matching grant for History Theater.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so that was the Ivy was very well deserved from for everyone in the band that understood that concept, and we just pulled it off. We didn't turn it up. We didn't have the bass player dancing on his bass violin. We didn't do anything. Buddy Holly was a very reserved player, and in the musical around the world, they do not depict him as that.
That's
they
true.
depict him as a wild man with, sexually free and crazy, and that wasn't Buddy Holly at all. And that's why the Crickets said, we will never go see another one. And that's why they wouldn't come to ours at first. Because they said, it's just disgusting to watch what they do.
Interesting.
So we played it right. Ron played it right. Ron Peluso, the artistic director of the theater, insisted on that. And together we were of like mind. And that's why it worked.
I saw that show. I've seen that show twice. It's a terrific show.
We've done it 3 times. We got 3 runs with it. Yeah. And then our Buddy Holly got maybe a little too old to play Buddy.
It happens.
But it was, over 6 or 7 years, we did 3 shows, 3 runs.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Yeah.
It was fun for everyone who was there.
Yeah.
The audiences and everything. It was very, very fun.
That's the way it should be.
That's the only way it should be. And it has to be that way.
Is Friday night going to be fun, Gary?
Friday night is going to be fun. Fun. Do you want me to go down on a rabbit hole about this show?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay,
Go.
so I'm asking myself, I think, what is the goal here? I could talk for 45 minutes about all of the work that went into this. We started this concept 2 years ago. A guy named Jerry Gray, who plays keyboards, it was his idea. And this is his band, and he hired me to be the musical director for it and put together a music book. And I said, why would you want to do another Beatle band? Everybody's doing Beatle bands. I love them too, but, this is enough. And he said, well, I just want to do it. And I said, I will on one condition, if we use real instruments rather than trying to recreate all this stuff on synthesizers. And so he said yes. And he provided funds for us to get this thing rolling. So we got a string quartet. We have 3 singers. The string quartet is called the Pepperland String Quartet. And the 3 singers are the Parlophones, which is the Beatles' first label. And then we have the Sun King Brass. There are 2 guys, the Sun King Brass, and then they play that piccolo trumpet solo on Penny Lane, which is really quite lovely. And you can recreate this stuff. You can get it close on synthesizers. But a lot of people probably didn't even think about that when they heard the music, right? They thought, well, it just sounds like that, so that's what it is. And so when people go out and do these shows, no one notices that there's not a real string section there. And the only way this is a very expensive show. And the only way to sell it is to get people to understand and appreciate the beauty and the romantic quality of these strings and these horns and these wonderful singers. And the only way to get them to do that is to get them in the seat. But it's chicken or the egg, If they don't know, why would they spend money for that much money for a ticket? And if they do know, they'll probably come. But like Gordy said, the Beatles will just pull them in. But what I vehemently was opposed to doing was putting on any outfits, wearing wigs, or talking a fake accent. I didn't want to do that. And so that was settled right away. And so what we're doing is honoring George Martin's contribution to these guys. Because, they were great composers and great lyricists, but my gosh, what George Martin did was incredible. It was incredible. For instance, should I just roll?
Yeah,
Keep
go.
rolling? Okay,
I want to know what his contribution to the Beatles was.
Paul McCartney wrote Yesterday. I think his original title was Ham and Eggs or something like that. And he wrote it, and it was a great song. Everybody loved it right away. And Paul said to George, make it beautiful. And George said, well, it's beautiful already. And he thought, well, let's put a string quartet with it. And they did. Paul didn't really want to do it because it was one of the first times that they used the combining of the coming together of the classical world, the symphonic players, and pop music, rock music. And Paul was nervous about it. But look what happened. Oh. It's the most recorded song in history. Probably approaching about 4,700 different recordings of this song now. And another one was the song Because from the Abbey Road album. It's a glorious little 3-piece vocal that they did. John was inspired by Moonlight Sonata, which is in 3/4, and he changed it around to a 4/4 piece. And George Martin said it took hours to teach them the arrangement that he had created. But it's very complicated harmonically. And so the Beatles have this thing called double tracking that they always did. They mult their vocals. So when 3 of them sing, they do it twice, so it sounds like 6, and they pull 1 back so you don't hear it so much, but it sounds much thicker. And that was always my problem as a music director. I thought, how are we going to recreate this sound? Well, we hire 3 singers. And so a lot of times they're doubling what everybody else is doing, but it creates a shimmer, if you can imagine, like sunlight on water. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous sound.
Oh, I can't wait till Friday now.
And Because is absolutely, it's just stunning the way it sounds with those extra singers. And
are you doing Eleanor Rigby?
Yes, we're doing Eleanor Rigby, and they did that too. It was a double tracking. Look at all the lonely people. There's 6 voices on that, but.
I did not know that. Did you know that, Gordy?
No.
But see, they've only.
But it makes perfect sense now that he explains it.
They've never. The only song that we do in the concert set is Yesterday, and that they had replayed live. They never. Any of the other ones, they never played them live because they just went completely studio after August of '65, and so it was very interesting and trying to ferret out the information for these charts. What we're trying to do is recreate the original oral illusion of what people heard. It's not we're not being exact with the number of players. For instance, on Strawberry Fields there are 4 cornets, trumpets. We only use 2. But the doubling effect comes from the synthesizers. There we do use them a little bit. And trying to recreate the accurate string parts and everything was I had to do this by ear because there were no archives of any of this music. We just have what we can hear. But now with digital technology and George Martin's son, they pushed all this multi-track stuff into Pro Tools. It's a multi-track software, and they can isolate the string tracks. So you can hear just the strings, what they're doing, just the vocals, what they're doing, which helped us a lot. And I think it's just the band is so good, and the sound is so magnificent. And we have, doing sound for us, we have a guy named Peter Greenland, who is Willie Nelson's sound man, and also is on tour presently with the Commodores. And he's top of the line, and the audience is going to get a real treat with the sound.
I'm bummed that I'm going to be in Seattle on Friday.
Seattle's cool.
On the way to Alaska.
Yeah, well, I'm going to a ball game in Safeco Field on Friday night.
Ah.
Yeah.
And then on to Alaska.
And then jump on the ship and head toward Alaska.
Do you have Johnny Horton's song North to Alaska here? You can play that.
I don't know. Maybe we will before the end of the week.
The rush is on.
Is that from the John Wayne movie?
I believe so.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm old.
No, you're experienced, just like me.
Thank you. I like that word.
Yeah, just like all of us here, we're experienced.
So you've had a great musical life.
You know, I don't think about it much, but when I have to stack things up, bing, 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 like this, I think I'm pretty grateful.
Oh.
I'm pretty grateful. I got a lot of it was just. It's just the way fortune happens, the way luck, fate happens, you know. These things are, the way I got involved with Gene Pitney is I got a phone call from his manager, who was a friend of mine, who knew that I was such a fan of Gene Pitney, I knew all the parts. And he said, the band the backup band just had an accident with their bus. They need somebody in Warwick, Rhode Island in 2 days. Can you make it? Put together a group. So we rented a bus, got on the freeway, a couple cases of beer, and drove all night and all day and got there. And we did a terrible job, of course, 'cause we didn't have any rehearsal, and some of the guys didn't even read music. But we had charts put in front of us. And for some reason, Gene hung on to me and gave me a bonus at the end of it, and that was the beginning of 20 years. And I hadn't planned for that. I had no plans for that. It just fell into my lap, so to speak. But what I tell my students, I teach at McNally Smith College of Music, and I say, you can prepare and prepare and prepare. And we all know this, right? We all know this. You can prepare and prepare, but what's going to come to you is out of left field, and you're not expecting it all. So all you can do is be ready for anything. So
That's
listen.
true in theater, too.
It's just like theater.
Sure
yeah.
it is. You never know when this stuff is going to come along. You can have your focus set on one thing. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to get this job. You don't get the job, but maybe you get a better one. It's just life is wonderful.
Funny how life works.
Yeah.
Yes, life is wonderful.
Yeah.
On a beautiful
Life
Minnesota
is a
morning
cabaret.
here.
There,
chum.
how's that for a segue?
Oh, chum.
Come on, that was beautiful. There it is. There's your cue.
Oh, well, the Merlin Players is working on Cabaret. We had our first orchestra rehearsal last night and yesterday afternoon, and things went really well. I've got some really seasoned players that have played with us a lot, and so they all know each other, and they just gel really fast. And so when you first hear the lushness of the band playing the melodies and the songs, you get really, as a director, you get real excited. So. And we had a full crew to work on set on Saturday, and we got real far and about 60% done, so that was terrific.
That's a weighty show.
Yes.
It has depth and meaning.
I know, and I have an excellent cast. So, and my choreographer, Mary Hahn from Northfield, is really wonderful choreographer, and I think you're going to see some of the songs interpreted in ways that you've never had before. We're doing Mine Hair without chairs, and but it's really we've been having a good time and working very hard. We call it the Cabaret Workout Club, because the men and women who are dancing, they're dancing 2.5 hours a night, and they are in great shape.
They would have to be.
Yeah, and singing at the same time. So
Sounds like a great show.
It's fun.
People can get
we open
tickets.
July 28th. So
Whoa.
tickets on sale the 17th.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
18th. So, but everyone needs to come out to the Paradise on Friday night. I don't have my tickets yet. I'm getting online and getting my tickets today.
That's a good idea. 7:30, because they're going fast, you said.
The pre-sale has been good.
Of course.
Of course.
I mean, come on. Who doesn't
Come on.
like this music?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
generations that weren't in that generation like that music.
I know my daughter grew up loving that music, and I used to tell her when she was a teenager, just go get your own music.
It transcends time. It really does.
Yeah. Well, this was first on Broadway in 1961, I believe, wasn't it?
Are you talking about Cabaret?
I'm sorry,
Still
whoops.
talking about we were still talking
We were
about
talking
Beatles.
about
Oh.
it. But
Yes,
Cabaret, same way.
Did we
yeah.
cross hairs there? With
Yeah, but Cabaret, it was 61.
Okay, let me put in a pitch
It's
for the
about the same
Paradise.
time.
Okay.
And the Paradise in particular, and arts venues in general. When the recession came along in 2008, we kind of had a rough time, and a lot of people tightened their belts, and a lot of people's disposable income went away, but it's starting to come back. And art is the one thing that makes us live and breathe. And if you have it within your power to do so, and you're sitting on the fence, I would urge you to just jump off the fence on the side of, yeah, I think I'll spend a little money on this because I'm going to be a richer person for it. And support these places, because if we don't support them, we lose them. And we need to put quality entertainment into these places, not things that perhaps are not as quality. We need to really work on things like Cabaret. That's an important piece of theater, and I hope you sell. I hope you sell.
Oh, from your mouth to
Because
God's
it
ears,
supports.
Gary.
It supports. And the same thing with a show like ours. I'm trying to draw a distinction between the commercial delivery of a Beatle tribute band as opposed to the real deep down absolute beauty of what that music was. And there is a difference.
I have never heard it played live with the strings. I can't wait. And the brass. So
you're recreating the studio.
That's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to do, and probably more or less successfully. I remember I put on Facebook a video of me rehearsing yesterday with the quartet, and I couldn't make it through singing it.
Where can we hear that video?
It's so beautiful. Well, you can go to my Gary Rue on Facebook. It's on my timeline.
Okay.
It's gorgeous. And I'm choking up,
It is a beautiful song.
Yeah. It is a beautiful song, and maybe resonates even a little bit more as we get older.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Doggone, I'm going to be in Seattle.
Oh,
watching
I'm sorry.
a Mariners A's game when you guys are listening to yesterday.
So all of us,
Eleanor Rigby.
Let's concentrate on what brings us together.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the things. Cabaret will be something else. Art, theater, music.
Right. And I also, people forget that the Paradise has become an economic driver for downtown too. The places to eat and the other stores that have opened since the Paradise opened, it's really has helped to bring life back to Central Avenue.
I love it down here. Laura McKenzie, my partner, who is from Northfield.
Oh, she's very talented.
Yeah, she's in County Cork right now in Ireland. She's been there. I miss her. Been there for 3 weeks. But she was a Northfield Tommy, and one of her favorite things to do is to come to Northfield and go to the Cheese Cave and just hang around on Central. And this is the first opportunity I've had since we moved back to the city. We moved into St. Paul a month ago because business was too busy. We were driving back and forth twice a day sometimes. And so, but I just want to give another little punch for Central because it's really attractive. And not to mention the architecture here in town.
Oh, yes.
And all of the wonderful things that are going on.
The funny thing is we take it for granted, Julianna.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm coming back to the station after recording a show down at Boss Floors last week, and I see these 4 people, and they're all looking up at the buildings, and the guy's pointing up at the architecture, and I assume it was his wife and kids, because it was that age bracket, and they're all looking up kind of and marveling at the architecture as he points to all this, and we take this for granted, but they obviously were here to see our historic downtown.
Right. We had 3 people in the theater came wandering in on Saturday afternoon while we were building set, and they were from Mankato, and they wanted to say, tell me about how this place came to be.
Well, I'm out of time, unfortunately, but it was nice meeting you.
It was wonderful to meet you, Gordon.
I'm going to go on
Thank you.
Facebook. I got to see that.
Me too.
And you're going to record this so I can pick in that show on Friday night. You're in tune to KDHLAM, Faribault, Minnesota. Again, that's Friday night, 7:30. Jump online right now.